Looking around the countercultural milieu of the 60s and 70s, I kept stumbling across accounts of extraordinary experience that possessed some eerie resonances with 2374. These included narratives from the writer Robert Anton Wilson, who spent most of 1974 in a reality tunnel in which the esoteric conspiracy theories he had cranked out in his pulp fiction doorstop Illuminatus intruded into his life in the guise of apparent communications from discarnate aliens linked to the star system Sirius. No less weird were the earlier experiences of Terence McKenna, a brilliant Berkeley student and psychedelic intellectual who returned to California from the Amazon in 1971 with a tale about the mother of all trips, a massive psilocybin mushroom journey taken with his brother Dennis, whose Gnostic, paranormal, and science-fictional dimensions McKenna would later compare explicitly to 2374. And there were more stories as well, from John Lilly, Timothy Leary, Andrea Puharich, J.J. Hurtak. Indeed, the more I dug into the esoteric margins of the first half of the 70s, the more memoirs and accounts I discovered that blended elements of religious mysticism and esoteric gnosis with cybernetic media, alien communications, genre fictions, and psychedelic metaphysics. The fact that all of these stories unfolded over a few years' time and largely in California suggested to me that there were larger patterns afoot. This book focuses on close study of what are, to my mind, the most fascinating of these experiences: the McKenna's experiment at La Chorrera, Robert Anton Wilson's cosmic trigger experiences, and the 2374 complex of Philip K. Dick. Not only were these episodes riveting and resonant with one another, but they all catalyzed rich and diverse writings that illuminate the tricksy dynamics between text, temperament, and extreme phenomenology. While my close readings will take precedence over a comparative synthesis, I have written this book in the indirect light of those enigmatic zeitgeist patterns that largely linger beyond my frame. So I raise the flag of high weirdness here as both a standard of the unstandard and a warning of sorts, like the indication, "Here be dragons," that medieval chart makers scrawled on the margins of the mapped. Highly weird. I owe the phrase high weirdness to a long-ago encounter with one revelatory text, Reverend Ivan Stang's 1988 catalog, High Weirdness by Mail, a Directory of the Fringe, Mad Prophets, Crackpots, Kooks, and True Visionaries. Stang divided his illustrated large-format directory of crank literature into categories like weird science, New Age saps, and cosmic hippie drug brother stuff. These categories in turn organize capsule reviews and contact information for a variety of niche organizations like Christian Technocracy, the Warlords of Satan, Saucer Technology, and the Good Sex for Mutants Dating League. All of the stuff Stang included was real, but so unusual that it was sometimes hard to believe. Stang's volume was part of a micro-trend of fringe catalogs that helped map the labyrinth of the 80s underground, and which also included the Lumpanics catalog, Amok Books' Dispatch series, and Mike Gunderloy's Metazine Factsheet 5. These and other compendia reflected an important mutation in the underground, as the counterculture of the 60s splintered into a proliferation of subcultures, driven to announce themselves largely through alternate DIY media, self-published books, cassettes, videos, comics, and most importantly, zines. These circuits of marginal media were by no means restricted to post-60s rebellions, but also included a rainbow array of American alternatives to mass culture, many of them religious, mystical, and occult. Stang's high weirdness was not something the group Stang cataloged were necessarily aiming for. Instead, high weirdness described an ironic but strangely loving aesthetic cultivated by Stang and his audience.